my nose. Take a look at it. It belongs to me. That's my nose. Hands off the touch. To me, it's not a burden, and it weighs 1/4 of a ton. But I'm not taking chances. It's even insured by Lloyd's of London. Oh, it's my nose, and it's part of my anatomy. And I love this nose, no matter what you say. Take all your surgeons and let them get lost, 'cause they're not working on me. It's my nose, and it's gonna stay mine. It's around so firm, so fully packed, so easy on the draw. I've got the biggest nose in this here town. The signal that we use for it is LSME. Be happy, go lucky, be happy, go lucky, strike. Be happy, go lucky, strike today.
Last year I was a freshman, but I'm now a sophomore. I wisely switched to Lucky Strike, that proves I know the score.
Be happy, go lucky, be happy, go lucky, strike. Be happy, go lucky, strike today.
That's right, neighbor. For real, deep down smoking enjoyment, smoke Lucky Strike. For everything you want in a cigarette is always in a Lucky Strike. Perfect mildness plus a real rich, true tobacco taste. Perfect mildness? Why, sure. Scientific tests confirmed by 3 independent laboratories prove Lucky's are milder than any other principal brand. Now, as for that rich taste, tell you what you do. Take a tip from Snooky. Light up a Lucky. Take a nice deep, and right away you'll prove to yourself how mild it really is. Now, you know there's a reason for that, don't you? It just doesn't happen. No, sir. LSMFT. Lucky Strike means fine tobacco. So why don't you find out what folks all over the country are finding out? If you really want to be happy, go lucky. Try a carton today.
Be happy, go lucky, be happy, go lucky, strike. Be happy, go lucky, strike today.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, we welcome back to the show comedian Artie Dann.
Thank you.
Mr. Dann, what's on your mind?
Well, the same thing that's on my face.
Yeah, what's that?
Well, you just can't ignore the nose.
Yeah, well, it is outstanding, that's true.
Well, it's outstanding. I think it's just about the biggest kisser in show business today.
That might very well be.
Well, the question is, do I want it?
Mr. Dann, you have it. Now, look, wait a minute. Last year, it seems to me, didn't you ask us if you should have it bobbed?
Well, I gave it a thought. As a matter of fact, I went as far as seeing a doctor, and then I changed my mind. I figured that if I had this fixed, then these things would stick out, you know?
Oh.
I'd have to get ear jokes, you know?
You mean you want us to decide whether you should keep the nose and the ears or get rid of both of them?
That's just about it.
How you trust us. Okay. Well, suppose we how you operate with these accessories, Mr. Dann. Ladies and gentlemen, here is Artie Dann.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you. I tell you what, before I do anything, I have a little trick that I'm very fond of. My mother and father, I think, were the first ever to do it in vaudeville some 20 years ago. Piece of paper, fold it in 8 parts, tear pieces, open it up, and it's a beautiful design. Watch it carefully. Hank, if you please. I have another trick here that it's a fake. Everything is a fake. This is real. Everything else is a fake. I'll tell you what, that I've got an impression I'd like to do for you that no one's ever done in person, yet it's one of the most famous of all screen characters. Usually you see this character in between feature pictures at your local theater. Let's see how many of you are going to remember and recognize as I give you my impression of Cathay News. It's a joke. What are you going to do? I tell you, no, I've been playing coast to coast, working theaters, nightclubs. You know, I just finished in Boston, and I think I'm finished in Boston. I'll tell you what happened. No, I worked a nightclub. You know, it's different. You got no people. So I sitting there the last night having a drink. Everybody's saying goodbye, New Year's Eve, and I had 2 drinks. Some girl I never saw before. She put her arms around me. She says, Artie Dann, I like your act. I saw you. I want you. I need you. I says, how come? She says, I'm through with men. So I thought, tell you what, no, this girl was different. different. She was gorgeous. She was beautiful. She was luscious. She was one of the biggest luscious. I knew what happened. Don't get a car. She said, you're going to New York. You're going to do this in show business. Lucky Strike. I said, that's right. She said, don't take a train or plane. It's snow. Get into my car. Well, that sounded good. You know, girl, boy. I figured, what have I got to lose? I figured she's a girl. I figured I'm a boy. And I figured wrong. But I was figuring like you know. So we got in the car. We took this long ride about 20 miles out of New York at 4 o'clock this morning. We got a flat tire in front of a cemetery. Boy, that's awful. You know, there was one little guy inside the cemetery standing over a grave, and he's yelling good and loud, why did you die? 4 o'clock in the morning. Well, I had nothing to do. The girl was fixing the flat. I didn't want to butt in. It was her car, you know. So this guy's still screaming, why did you die? Now, how long could I listen? Finally, I became a little nosy. So there's a good... I'll tell you what. I got this man on the shoulder. I says, mister, I've been watching you for 20 minutes now. Who died? Your wife? He said, no. Your mother? Your father? He said, no. I said, who died? He says, my wife's first husband. Why did you die? No, don't overdo it, please. No, I'm not like the other comedians. I don't work like them. I mean, if you like me, you like me. If you don't, I like you. Those comedians that come out and tell you 2 jokes, and if you don't laugh, right away they get ulcers. Not me. I got them. And then you've got the other style of comedians that yell at the audience, don't laugh, I don't do this for a living. Well, I do. This is no sideline with me, kids. This is it. I can't stand those guys. Don't laugh, I got enough money saved up for rainy days. Well, with me it's different. One good drizzle and I'm a bum again. This is my bread and butter. The money I make here, I eat. I eat and I am here. This is the whole thing. Well, you remember me. Send this boy to camp. Just got back. Yeah, bus strike. I had to walk. Are you kidding? That's about it. What are you... Last summer I entered that contest, that Mr. America contest. I almost lost my citizenship. No, it's a body. What are you going to do? You got to have a body. You just can't have a nose in the air with nothing holding it up, you know? And people say, why don't you gain weight? Every place I go, they call me skinny, skinny, skinny. Last night I walked into a pool room. Some wise guy chalked me up. And I like being skinny. I do, and I get sick. No x-rays. Everything shows. You know, hey! People say, eat food. I eat 5 times a day. Nothing helps. Would you believe it? I sent my picture to Europe last week. They sent me food. I took it. I'm not too proud of it. Been shopping lately. What are you going to buy? Coffee is 98 cents a pound. Butter, 10 cents a look. It's cheaper to eat money. There's a nice quiet line. It's cheaper to eat money. All right. Oh, no, everything went up. I went into a drugstore this morning to get change of a quarter. It cost me 35 cents. Everything went up. Remember the people you wouldn't give 2 cents for? They're free for a dime now. When I get bargains, you talk about the department stores, then they're loaded. It's after Christmas. I went to Macy's yesterday, and the women, they push you, they shove you, they lean up against you. I'm going back tomorrow. This is, no. Did you ever see such socks? 20 cents a pair. 20. If I had the other dime, I would have had the other one. Look at that. I'll tell you what. This is a very, very good spot for me to sing a song that Frankie Lane wrote for me. Of course, I don't sing as good as Frankie Lane. I have my own style. As a matter of fact, you've all heard of Guy Lombardo and the sweetest music this side of heaven. Here's your chance to hear what's on the other side right now. Dear Lord above, can't you hear me complaining? You gave me wavy hair, a complexion fair. You gave me eyesight nice and strong. But Lord, you made the thing too long. You can laugh if you want to, but just remember one thing. You have to breathe all day long. I take one good breath and I'm set for the whole week. That's my nose. Take a look at it. It belongs to me. That's my nose. Hands off, don't touch. To me, it's not a burden, and it weighs a quarter of a ton. But I'm not taking chances. It's even in shores of London. Oh, it's my nose. And it's part of my anatomy, and I love this nose. No matter what you say, take all your surgeons and let them get lost, 'cause they're not working on me. It's my nose, and it's gonna stay mine. It's around so firm, so fully packed, so easy on the draw. I've got the luckiest nose in this here town. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Mr. Dan. Very funny. Artie, now take it easy. Now take it easy. Now, last year, don't know whether you remember this, and Mr. Levinson does, of course, Mr. Dan left his nose in our hands, and now he's back asking us to dispose of his ears, too. Not that you can afford even the slightest cut. Do you think you ought to have a remodeling job, Mr. Allen?
Well, I don't know. He looks all right to me, but I think it would be all right to have a remodeling job if he had some particular end result in mind. And while I was watching him, one occurred to me. He might be able to possibly go ahead and have a nose job and then an ear job and hire his head out as a bowling ball. But if that didn't work, actually, I think Artie's real problem is that he's too thin. I was over at his house one day, and he's the only fellow I know who can tread water in a test tube. And I think that's his real problem, but maybe Sam or Jackie have other ideas.
Do you think, Mr. Allen, he ought to go to work so he can eat? Do you eat much, Artie?
Yes, I do.
You eat from time to time?
Yes.
You going to eat tonight, for example?
Yes, absolutely.
They've raised the rates on this show. Miss Suzanne, you're the only one of all of us who could not be improved by any possible change in your face, so perhaps you don't care to speak on this subject.
Oh, I do. I think, Mr. Dan, first of all, you must want your nose changed for your social life, I guess. Not professionally, because you're wonderful with the nose. You're sort of a cross between Durante and Sinatra this way. And as far as your social life goes, because I know that I would rather go out, say, with Jimmy Durante or Joey Lewis any day than pretty boys like Robert Taylor and Sam Levinson. I mean, I would much rather, I think that, but I say all this, of course, if I were a single girl. You know, although after the show I may be a single girl.
That's very possible. How about it, Mr. Levinson? Have you ever thought, Mr. Levinson, of having yourself changed in any way?
People have suggested it, but I don't take them seriously.
You haven't ever thought of maybe cutting off one of those brothers of yours, for example?
No, I make a living from those. Of course, obviously, I suggest that he keep it because he's doing so well with it, and everybody loves him with it. Besides, it's a family heirloom. Seriously, you inherit these things. That nose has been handed down for generations. Seriously. And you're just going to cut it off. Besides, if you cut it off, you are beginning a deception, and the deception never works out, and I can tell you a wonderful true story. I usually don't make fun of noses, but since you brought up the subject, you see, I'm willing to discuss it. We have a girl in the family who had one almost like yours. A little underprivileged, she was about an inch less than you have. And she couldn't get a fellow, and she decided to have it bobbed, and she had it bobbed, and it worked out seriously, just the way they hoped. She got a fellow within a year. Of course, after another year, she had a baby with her old nose. Now, of course, the family was prepared for this. They blamed it on the fella's family, see? And you know the funniest part of this? He broke down and confessed that he had his nose fixed. That's a fact. It's a true story. Also, I mean, that you've inherited something that is subject. Now, people look for subject matter. You've got the most wonderful subject matter. You can stand up there for 10 minutes and talk about that thing. Of course, if you and the fact that you take it so lightly is very healthy. I never make jokes of that kind. I warn my children not to. If I have time, do I have time for another story, Mr. Fadiman? I was inviting one of my old school principals over, and he has one as good as yours, a little more educated type nose. And I warned my little boy, who was 3 years old at that time, please don't mention the man's nose. It's going to be very, you know how kids are, they'll point, you know. Well, the kid was wonderful all through supper. He just stared at this thing, you know, till we got to the coffee. And the kid, meaning well, he picked up the sugar bowl and he turned to the man and he said, do you take 1 or 2 lumps of sugar in your nose?
You know, Mr. Dan, I think that that nose of yours may be a bit hurt after all this talk, so try inhaling these Luckies. And do come back and see us again.